All right, so now we're going to get into subtracting sign numbers. It's a little bit harder to think about. All right, one of the issues is that the sign we use for subtraction and also has other meanings, and I want you just to see that. So it can mean subtraction. It can mean that you got a negative number. Or it can be more of an action. It can be taking the opposite, or the additive inverse. Taking the opposite of a number. Okay, so it can mean subtraction, 5 minus 2, 5 take away 2, okay, the difference of 5 and 2. It can mean a negative number, and they used to really distinguish that, put like a negative up there, and they do still do that in a way on a calculator. This, for instance, this minus is on the right side of my calculator, where all the operations are. But if I want to type in a -6, to type that in, I need to use the negative sign at the bottom. Oops, it doesn't have a -1. Just print, it looks like this, and it's there at the bottom of the calculator. So it has kind of a different meaning. It's not subtracting. It's doing the opposite in a way. All right, and that's the same for this one. But here, the opposite of 3 would turn out to be -3. So this is like the opposite. Take the opposite of 3, which would turn out to be the number that is -3. All right, so I think it's good just to make sure you're aware that we use the same symbol to mean several different things. Okay? Now, as we do this, I'm going to have you think about, kind of think about how to do this. So if you have 8 minus 3, that's a problem you've done your whole life. 8 minus 3, you know, is 5. Okay. You can, when you're looking at that, I want you to think about, I want you to put in a lot of extra signs, but when you're looking at it, I want you to realize it's almost like you just have an 8 and a -3. It's just like you have an 8 and a -3, and you're combining them like we did on the previous thing. That's kind of how I want you to think about it. The sign that's in front of the number is the sign that goes with it. So 8 minus 3 is really the same as having an 8 and a -3, and you're really just trying to combine them. But I don't want you to always write that extra plus sign in there. I just want you to get used to thinking about it that way. Okay. So if you have $8 and then 3 is negative, you really owe 3, then you're going to have just $5 left. Okay. All right. So it's almost like you have 8 and then you have a debt of 3. Okay. All right. So when you're looking at it, you can think about the problems like you have 12 and -7. It's like 12, and I'm combining it with a -7. So I have $12, but I owe $7. Then I'm going to still have 5 left after I pay off that debt. Okay. All right, look at this one. You owe 5, you owe 8. It's like you owed 5 and then you borrowed 8 more, right? So you're really in the hole. You're in the hole 13. If you can see it without putting a lot of extra signs in there, I really do think it helps. But it's like we're saying the 5 is negative and the 8 is negative, and we're trying to just combine those. So we're turning it, in a way, we are turning it back to the adding of signed numbers. Okay. Let's do these two guys right here. So 3 is positive, the 7 is negative. So I really have a 3 and a -7 that I'm trying to combine. So I have $3, but then I have this debt of 7, so I'm really going to be in the hole still, $4. So see how that relates back to our addition in a way? Okay, it's just if you can avoid actually writing that extra plus in there, I think that helps things not get so messy later. I really more just want you to realize the number in the sign in front of a number is what you've really got. So like the 10 is negative and so is the 3. I have a debt of 10 and a debt of 3. I'm going to be in the hole 13. Okay, you can think of it as a -10 and a -3 getting combined. All right, now something else sometimes people do to remember this is they think about keeping the first number, okay, whatever the first number is. See how that stayed the same on all those? Then changing to addition. See how I changed them all to addition? And then taking the opposite of the second number. Okay, so that does work. If you like to do keep, change, change, some people like that concept. Keep, change. So keep the first, change. So we're changing the subtraction to addition, and then take the opposite of what follows. So keep the -5. Okay. Change the negative to a positive, and then change the 8 to a -8. You can do that. That's a little less helpful. To me, the best thing is to learn to read these expressions and realize that the sign that's in front of it is what goes with the number. And to think, okay, I just have a -3 and a -10. I'm trying to combine. So I'm going to wind up being in the hole $13. To me, that's the best way to do it. Now, these other 4 have that extra little negative in there that can be a bit of a problem when you're thinking about it. So I want you to have a way of reasoning this out. Okay. See the 6 minus a -2. It's like if I covered that 6 up for a minute, you have the opposite of -2. It's like the opposite of -2 would be 2. So this really becomes 6 plus 2. Okay, because of the opposite of -2. Also later we'll learn this is like having a -1 here. And so you'll learn later to do -1 times -2, which would make it a +2. Okay, but for now, if you have the opposite of a -2, then you're going to have really +2. And then 6 plus 2 would be 8. Okay. All right, so I didn't show it on the adding. I may go back and do that. You also sometimes can think about number lines, like you're starting at 0, and then you get $12, so you're way over here, but then you owe 7, so you're going to come back this way 7, and where you wind up is the answer, and it would be 5. So sometimes you can visualize them like that. It just gets hard when you have like the double negatives in there. It's a little harder to do it directly on the number line. Okay. It works good on some problems though, like this one. Okay. Here you are at 0. You get $3, but then you incur a debt of 7. So that uses up those 3 and brings you way over here, and you'd be at -4. The fact it was a -7 made you go to the left. You went to the left 7. The +3 meant you went to the right 3. Okay, so that can sometimes be helpful. Look at the one below it. You were at 0. You incurred a debt of $10, so you're over here. Then you incurred another debt of 3, so you went to the left 3 to the left 10. See how you'd wind up at -13. Okay, it's harder to think about that when you have the negative numbers. You really first have to resolve that opposite of a -2 and think, okay, that's +2. Then you can think about it here. You got 6, okay, and then +2 more gets you to 8, okay. Okay. All right. So let's do a few more of these. So opposite of negative 4, that would be the same as 2 plus 4. Okay. And then 2 plus 4 would just be 6. Okay. Negative 3 minus a negative 5. First thing I want to do is take care of the opposite of negative 5, which would be plus 5. And then I'm going to do negative 3 plus 5. That's going to give me 2. Okay. Then negative 7 minus negative 1, that's going to be negative 7. It's going to be negative 7. I'm trying to get that shading off of that. Oh, well. Minus a negative 1 would be plus 1. The opposite of negative 1 would be 1. And then negative 7 plus 1, I have a debt of 7. But then I have $1 that I can use to pay off some of it, but I'm still going to be in the whole 6. Okay. All right, so that's subtracting. So you may want to, take a moment and change it to addition, but it's really just realizing that the sign in front of the number is the sign of that number. And then it's just a matter of combining those. And when you're dealing with signed numbers and adding and subtracting them, the directions might say add, like you might have negative 3 plus 5. But that sure feels like a subtraction problem because you wind up subtracting 3 from 5 and getting 2. So don't let the language, the directions, when it says add or when it says subtract, make you think you add the number parts. You are adding, you're just adding this negative number to that positive number. So it doesn't wind up being an 8. It winds up being 2, right? You were at 0 and then you had a debt of $3. So you're over here at negative 3, but then you came in and got $5, which enabled you to get out of debt, but you'd only be over here at 2. Okay. All right. So sometimes when they say add, it can throw you when you have one like that because it feels like subtraction, doesn't it? All right. Let's do a few examples of this one. All right, let's look at some of these. So we're just trying to find the difference. Find the difference. So let's see if we just go through the odd ones, we should be good. So like 4 and a negative 7. I have $4, but I'm in debt 7 means I still owe 3. You can do keep, change, change to see that if that's helpful. Okay. On 55, I have $5, but I owe 9, so I'm still in debt 4. So I have a negative 4. Keep, change, change. By the way, see that little arrow right there? If you were in the interactive textbook, you could click on that, and I think it would do a little video for you. Okay. All right, let's look at 57. Here I have a negative 7 being combined with a negative 1. I'm in debt 7. I'm borrow $1 more. I'm going to be in the whole 8. Okay. Same deal here. I'm in the whole 8 and I borrow 6 more. I'm going to be in the whole 14. If you want to think about it as keep, change, change, then I have a debt of 8, a debt of 6 means I have a debt of 14. All right, now 61 has the minus a negative in there. The opposite of a negative 2 would be positive 2. So it's like you have 7 and positive 2, that's going to be 9. And you can do the keep, change to addition, and then take the opposite and see it. Okay, let's try that on this one. Keep, change to addition, and then change by taking the opposite, and that would be positive 11. So I have 9, and then the opposite of negative 2 would be 2. Okay. On 63, I have negative 6, and I'm going to subtract a negative 2. So negative 6, and I'm going to keep that. I'm going to change, take the opposite, and then I'm going to think money. I'm in the whole 6, but then I have $2 that I can use to pay off some of that. but not all of it. That's going to be -4. Okay? Let's try one more. So keep, change to addition if you want, take the opposite, and then think money. In the hole 7, but then I have 5 I can use to pay off, $5 that I owe, but I'll still owe $2 more. Okay? And then 77 through 85 is just a matter of you following order of operations. Okay, so let's do a few of these that have different scenarios. So let me look. Okay, so 77 would be good. 79, 81. Yeah, it looks like all the odd ones. All right, let's do those odd ones. All right, so here we have 4 minus 6 in parentheses, so we should start there. So we have $4, but then we owe 6, so we're going to be in the hole 2. All right, so we have a debt of 2, but then we have $12, so I can use that $12 to pay off my debt, and what I'd have left is $10. So my answer would be 10. Okay. All right, so let's look at 79. We would do the 8 minus 1 and get 7. Then we have to take away 12. So it's like you have $7, but you owe $12. So you can pay off $7 of that debt, but you're still going to be in the hole 5. Okay. Right, with 81, I would start on the innermost here. I have a debt of 8, but then I have $3, so I can pay off some of that. So that inside the parentheses is going to still be negative, but it'll be just -5. And then see how you have 6 minus that -5? So that's going to really equal 6 plus 5. Okay. Sorry, I need to answer a question. Okay, so let me continue. So 6 minus a -5, the opposite of -5 would be +5. So we really have 6 plus 5. So the answer on 81 would be 11. Okay. All right, let's look at 83. A -4, and then you're combining that with a -8. Okay, that would be -12. Or you can think I have a debt of 4, and then change and change. So keep, change to addition, take the opposite. But really, it's basically that 4 is negative and so is the 8. So that would mean you are in the hole 12. Then you have 2 plus that. And a +2 and a -12, the 2 would knock out $2 of that debt, and you'd just be in the hole 10. Okay. All right, now let's move over to 85, which has absolute value. Those are not ones, so make sure you're really seeing those long enough so they don't look like ones. So they're grouping symbols. You got to do what's inside each of these. And a -5 and a -6, if you combined it, would be -11. Okay, then a 9 plus 2 would be a +11. Okay. Now it says to do the absolute value of -11, so that's going to be 11. The absolute value of +11 is also 11. And so that's going to turn out to be 22 when you're finished. All right, so that's the subtracting sign numbers, and then also got into problems that were all mixed up there. Okay.